All right. I stopped the alert because it was not functioning properly. This is a support ticket we received. After checking the email alerts, it showed that the webhook email notification inexplicably stopped after the 8 a.m. alert. The logs confirmed that the alerts stopped and showed that there was a calculation error. What is calculation error and why did it happen? What can I do to prevent this from happening again? So I just wanted to bring this up because this actually also happened to me the other day. To be fair, my strategy is trying to send dozens to hundreds of signals in an hour, and I'm trading 50 positions at a time. It's a dashboard screener, so I'm really putting the alerts through its paces. And I got a calculation error because it turns out that you can get a memory limit error on TradingView um, on the when the script is running on the in the cloud. And so, even though everything looked fine when I was locally, at some point, 2 days down the road, even though the alerts were fine, perfectly fine, I got a calculation error. Now, you can send a message to TradingView. You just make sure you keep the log. You send a message to TradingView and ask them what's the actual reason for that, because there's no like debug information available. And after a couple of days, I got an answer as to what the issue was. That my script was uh, there's a limit issue. But if there's some sort of logic that happens where that could cause an error in your script, then that could show up later on TradingView if your script is running on the cloud.
I think there are other instances that I've ran into where if I think this is just me speculating from the outside and like how TradingView system works, but like I think that calculation error is like a catch-all for um, multiple types of errors. But I've experienced it when TradingView has data issues, like if their data provider goes down or something,
Right.
then that would fall into that bucket. There have been scenarios where I've gotten it where it wasn't a problem with my script. I had alerts, really simple moving average crossover strategy alerts running for like multiple years, and I just suddenly got a calculation error on some of them, and it coincided with a window of time when TradingView had like systems issues. And I don't think it was their systems. I think it was an upstream data provider that had issues.
I see. Well, one thing as far as answering the second part of the question about how to mitigate this, what I've been doing is once I'm ready to deploy a strategy, I'll just choose the chart that I want, as many bars as possible. I'll go all the way back as far as I can in replay and just replay it, just have it play. Because sometimes the error will only show up 40,000 bars in, and you can really test that. So until it gets all the way to the end, to the last bar, and there was no error, then I feel more comfortable to have it running live. But then I also check it every multiple times a day. So in the morning, at night, and sometimes in the afternoon, I'll just check to see is everything okay with there's no calculation error. I don't really see a way around that on the TradingView side because there's no message that's sent to you at the moment when an error happens in your alert.
And
Tom,
you can't filter. You can't filter by calculation error either. I think you can only look at inactive only.
Correct.
Which would, I think, the calculation error ones show up under inactive, if I remember right.
Yeah, but when you have a bunch of alerts, there's no way to like get that
Right.
up higher on the list. So
yeah, I tend to make a new layout for every strategy I deploy, and then that requires that I kind of have to open multiple windows to check the state of each one. It is a lot of work to go through and make sure everything's working properly, but I didn't realize that these calculation error alerts would show up in the inactive status. So that's a good way to find them really quickly. Tom, is it your understanding that the look back bars on by default, is that 1,000 or 500, or what's the number it looks back in the loop?
The look back, you mean when you're inside a method when it's looking back the number of bars for calculation?
Right. I think the default, the whole Pine script environment is one giant loop. It starts at the very left bar and it moves its way forward. You have to manually override that to increase the number of bars it looks back if you have like some kind of longer term calculation. And obviously that increases the memory footprint. I like your idea there of using the bar replay tool, because what that does is it forces it to run through that loop multiple times instead of just looking at the loop in the default number of bars that it looks back at. Which I was just curious what that look back number of bars is by default.
It's 5,000. They say to look back is 4,999.
Right.
but that's the maximum.
That's the maximum. I just don't know if that's the default.
No, the default is what the script, the compiler checks to see if there's any implied number of bars back that it should
Right.
look for
Based on
every
your
variable.
periods. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it makes its own decision.
Got it. Interesting. Okay.
But that was a nice, because I was in a bunch of trades that were going south, and I was like, oh, I'm expecting. Oh, that was the other thing I did in order to mitigate it. I ran a second. I had to alert twice. One was sending to TradersPost, and one was just normal. And so I would expect on my phone to get 2 notifications whenever it happened. And if I only got 1 notification where I expect 2, then I know the script wasn't running. But then I optimized the script, made it run, and so far I haven't had any problems with it, and I have it running for 10 different instances.